The first time I saw my brother's name printed on legal paper, I couldn't breathe. Not because I didn't expect paperwork. After a death, paperwork multiplies like dust. Forms, notices. Final documents that never feel final. But this was different. This was a civil complaint filed at the county courthouse with a caption that made my stomach twist. Brianna Hale vs. Claire sudden claim wrongful death settlement precedes Brianna my stepsister and the money she was trying to grab wasn't some vague inheritance, it was the settlement tied to the worst phone call of my life, the one where a trooper told me my brother Ethan was gone after a crash on a rainy interstate. I read the complaint twice, then a third time slower, like I might find the moment it stopped being real. She claimed I controlled the funds and she was entitled as family. She wrote it like Ethan was a checking account that didn't close properly. He sat at my kitchen table with a cold mug of coffee and stared at the date on the hearing notice. 10 days. I don't know what would have happened if I tried to do this alone. I'm not proud to admit it, but I probably would have called Brianna and asked, "Are you out of your mind?" Instead, I called someone I trust because she doesn't care who anyone is. She cares what's true. Her name is Naomi Keller, and she's the kind of attorney who keeps her hair in a clip, her voice calm, and her questions sharp enough to cut through lies without raising the volume. She met me the next morning in her office, took one look at the complaint, and didn't even blink. "Okay," she said, flipping a page. "And she's swinging for the whole thing." "She's not even on the settlement," I said. "The settlement is." Naomi raised a hand gently. "Don't explain it like you're defending yourself to her," she said. "Explain it like we're building a record." She grabbed a yellow legal pad. "Who are the statutory beneficiaries?" she asked. I swallowed. "Me and our dad. Ethan wasn't married. No kids." Naomi nodded. "And Brianna is your dad's daughter from his first marriage?" "Yes." "And Ethan was not adopted by her mother and she wasn't adopted by yours?" "Right." "It mattered, but I hated that it mattered because it sounded cold, like family is a math problem." Naomi tapped her pen once. "Then she's not family in the way the law recognizes for wrongful death," she said. "Not automatically." "But she filed anyway," I said. Naomi's mouth tightened into something that wasn't a smile. "People file all kinds of things," she said. "The court doesn't reward confidence. The court rewards proof." He stared at the complaint again. "Says saying Ethan promised her money." He said, like he died and left her a tip. Naomi leaned back. "Promises don't beat statutes," she said. "But I want to know what she's really doing." "What do you mean?" Naomi's eyes flicked to the last page. "She asked for a writ," she said. "That's the part where this stops being a threat and starts being a problem." He felt my skin go cold. "A writ of execution," Naomi continued, "is how someone tries to seize property after judgment. Says trying to position herself like you already owe her." He exhaled slow. "But she doesn't have a judgment." "Not yet," Naomi said. And the way she said it made my pulse jump, which means the hearing matters. He nodded. "So, what do we do?" Naomi glanced at me, maturing. "Do you have anything from Brianna in writing?" She asked. "Texts, emails, anything that shows her intent." He almost laughed. "Her entire personality is in writing," I said and pulled up my phone. He had a thread from 3 weeks after Ethan died. I hadn't deleted it because I don't know. Part of me wanted proof I didn't imagine her. Naomi read silently. "Brianna, how much did you get?" "Brianna, don't act like you're the only one grieving." "Brianna, we're family. Do ella do the right thing." Naomi looked up. "This is pressure," she said. "Not a legal claim." Then her eyes narrowed at one message farther down. "Brianna, if you won't share, I'll make you." Naomi didn't comment. She didn't need to. She just said, "Forward that to me." He did. Then Naomi asked the question that changed the direction of everything. "Claire," she said, "did Brianna already take money connected to Ethan's death in any other way?" He blinked. "What?" Naomi held my gaze. "GoFundMe, donations, a benefit event." "Anything," she said, because people who feel entitled usually double dip. They don't start with court, they end there. My throat tightened. There had been a fundraiser. Not mine, not even my idea. Our dad's church did it. Brianna ran around that week acting like she was the family spokesperson. He remembered her standing in the fellowship hall taking pictures, hugging people, collecting envelopes like she was running for office. He swallowed. She handled some of the donations. He admitted. She said she was organizing expenses. Naomi's face didn't change, but her eyes sharpened. Do you have proof of what she collected? She asked. He hesitated. No, it was chaos. Naomi nodded once like she'd expected that answer. Then we create proof, she said. She stood, went to her printer, and pulled out a single-page form. Request for accounting, she said, sliding it to me. We send it today. If she ignores it, that's a fact. If she lies, that's a fact. Either way, it matters. He stared at the page. This is really happening, I said quietly. Naomi's voice softened just a notch. I know, she said. And I'm sorry. Then her tone went practical again. Now, she said, I want one thing from you. One thing that's clean. What? A receipt, she said. Any receipt connected to Ethan's expenses that shows who paid what. I frowned. Why does that matter? Naomi tapped the complaint with her pen. Because her story is going to be emotional, she said. Dry eyes, big statements. I'm family, though. Daddy's hear that all day. She leaned forward. But a receipt, she said, doesn't perform. That night, I went home and opened the old folder I'd been avoiding. The one with the funeral documents and the things I didn't want to look at again. I found the invoice for Ethan's service and stapled to it. A small ugly truth, a payment confirmation with a name on it. Not mine, not Dad's. Brianna's. He stared until my eyes burned because I remembered exactly how she'd acted that day, telling everyone she couldn't afford anything. Crying in the corner, letting Dad cover the room deposit. And yet the receipt said she paid something, which meant either she was lying then or she was going to lie now. I drove to Naomi's office before work and slid the receipt across her desk. Naomi looked at it once, then looked back at me. Good, she said. Good, I repeated. Naomi nodded. Because now we have a lever, she said. And I have a feeling the judge is about to ask a very simple question. She tucked the receipt into a folder and closed it. See you in court, she said. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. No drama, no movie lighting, just wood, paper, and quiet tension. Brianna sat at the plaintiff's table in a pale sweater like she was attending a brunch, not trying to take my brother's settlement. She didn't cry. She didn't fidget. She sat there dry-eyed, composed, and when she saw me, she gave a little smile that made my skin crawl like she already knew how this ended. Naomi squeezed my elbow once, barely there. Let her talk, she murmured. Then we put facts on the record. The clerk called the case. The judge walked in, sat, and started flipping through the file like he'd rather be anywhere else until he reached Brianna's exhibits. Brianna stood up and said loud and clean, Your Honor, I deserve this. I'm family, though. The judge didn't react. He looked over his glasses. Hale, he said. What is the legal basis for your claim to these proceeds? Brianna's smile held. Because he would have wanted it, she said. Naomi didn't flinch. She simply stood, slid a single paper forward, and said, Your Honor, before we go any further, we'd like the court to read one line from the filed documents. The judge paused. His eyes dropped to the page, and for the first time since he entered the room, his expression changed just slightly, like he'd found the part that mattered. The judge didn't rush. He took the page. Naomi slid forward, laid it flat on the bench, and adjusted his glasses like he was deciding whether this was going to be a quick morning or a long one. Brianna stayed standing at the plaintiff's table, hands folded, face calm, like she was waiting for someone to hand her a check and thank her for being family. The judge cleared his throat. From the order approving the settlement, he said, eyes still down. The court finds the statutory beneficiaries are. A pause just long enough for the room to lean in without meaning to. And then he read the line out loud, word for word. The only beneficiaries are Claire Sutton and Daniel Sutton. That was it. One line, no theatrics, but it hit like a door slamming. Brianna's smile froze mid-breath. Not a slow fade, an instant stop, like her face forgot what it was supposed to do next. She blinked once. Then she opened her mouth and for the first time since this started, nothing came out right away. The judge finally looked up. "Ms. Hall," he said. "You are not listed." Brianna recovered fast. She always did. She lifted her chin, voice suddenly warmer, more wounded. "I'm his sister, though," she said. "He grew up with him." The judge's expression didn't change. "I'm not questioning your feelings," he said. "I'm questioning your claim." He tapped the page again. "This is a court order," he said. It is not a suggestion." Brianna glanced at me quick, sharp. Then back to the judge. "Then she's hiding money," Brianna said, shifting gears like she'd rehearsed it. "She controlled everything. She kept me out. I deserve my share." Naomi's voice stayed level. "Your Honor," she said. "This order controls distribution. The plaintiff's complaint seeks to seize proceeds she has no legal entitlement to." The judge held up a hand to slow the room down. "M. Hale," he said. "Did you read the settlement approval order before filing this?" Brianna hesitated, a tiny pause that answered the question better than any words. "I didn't have it," she said. The judge nodded once, like, "That's what I thought." "And yet you asked this court to seize everything the defendant owns," he said, flipping to Brianna's inventory request. "Car, savings, hind furniture." Brianna's cheeks flushed. "That's how collection works," she said quickly. "If someone won't pay," the judge cut her off gently. "Collection works after judgment on a valid debt," he said. "Not after someone files a lawsuit and hopes the paper frightens the other party into writing a check." Brianna's eyes narrowed. She looked like she wanted to argue with the judge, but she knew better than to do it out loud. So, she pivoted again. "Fine," she said. "Then, I want reimbursement." The judge's brow lifted. "Reimbursement for what?" Brianna's voice steadied, trying to sound reasonable. "Funeral expenses," she said. "I paid. I have proof." She took the settlement and left me stuck. My stomach tightened because that was the part that sounded believable to strangers. Naomi didn't blink and she simply stood and said, "We do have proof, Your Honor." And she slid the funeral invoice forward. The judge looked down, read, then looked back up. "This invoice shows a payment made by Ms. Hall," he said. Brianna's shoulders loosened like she just found solid ground again. "Yes," she said a little too quickly. "Exactly." The judge turned to Naomi. "And what are you disputing?" he asked. Naomi's answer was simple. "Context," she said. "And the full accounting." Brianna's eyes flashed. "What accounting?" she snapped. Naomi didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "Your Honor," she said. "There was a community fundraiser for expenses. Ms. Hall handled donations and told the family she was organizing costs. We requested a basic accounting." Brianna's face tightened like a rubber band being pulled. "That's irrelevant," she said. The judge's tone changed, still calm, but firmer. "It becomes relevant when someone asks the court for money and presents partial proof," he said. "I don't like being shown half of a story." Brianna tried to soften her face again, but it wasn't landing the same way now. "I did everything I could," she said. "I was grieving. I didn't keep spreadsheets." The judge leaned forward. "Then you shouldn't be filing to seize property," he said. "If you want reimbursement, you bring a clean record." I paused, then asked the question that made my throat go tight. "Ms. Hall, did you receive any donations related to these expenses?" Brianna blinked. "Yes." "How much?" the judge asked. Brianna's eyes flicked toward the ceiling like she could find a number written up there. People donated, she said. I used what I could. The judge didn't let her float away. This is a court, he said. Not a memory test. Turned to Naomi. Counsel, he said. Do you have the settlement order certified? Naomi nodded and handed it up. Stamped, dated, oficial. The judge looked at it, then back at Brianna. I am dismissing the plaintiff's claim to the wrongful death proceeds, he said clean and final. You are not a beneficiary under this order. Brianna's face went stiff. But she started. The judge continued without looking up. If you believe you are owed reimbursement for specific expenses, you may file a properly supported claim limited to that, he said. Not the seizure of everything. Brianna opened her mouth again, but the judge lifted a hand. And if you pursue reimbursement, he added, you will produce an accounting of any donations you collected or controlled related to the funeral and memorial costs. Brianna's eyes widened. That's not it is now, the judge said. Looked straight at her. Bring your notations, receipts, bank records, whatever exists, he said. If it doesn't exist, you will explain why. You will explain why. Brianna's voice came out thinner. Came out thinner. When is that supposed to happen? When is that supposed to happen? She asked. The judge glanced at the asked. The judge glanced at the calendar. 2 weeks, he said. Calendar. 2 weeks, he said. Evidentiary hearing limited to evidentiary hearing limited to reimbursement claims and accounting, not reimbursement claims and accounting, not settlement proceeds. Looked at Naomi. Settlement proceeds. Looked at Naomi. And counsel, he said, file a proposed in counsel, he said, file a proposed order today reflecting dismissal of the order today reflecting dismissal of the settlement claim. If it doesn't exist, settlement claim. Naomi nodded. Yes, Your Honor. The judge's gaze returned to Brianna. One more thing, he said almost casually. You filed an inventory seeking to seize household goods. Brianna swallowed. The judge's voice stayed level. If you ever file an enforcement request like that again without a valid judgment, he said, I will consider sanctions. That word sanctions landed like ice water. Brianna forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I understand, she said, but she didn't sound like she understood. She sounded like she'd been blocked from a door she expected to walk through. Outside the courtroom, the hallway felt too bright. Brianna walked past me without looking directly at my face, but as she passed, she murmured low enough to sting. You think you won? Naomi stepped between us without making it a scene. Keep walking, Naomi said, calm as a metronome. Brianna's jaw tightened and she disappeared down the hall. Chanek salid, schaki, relieve. That's it. He asked Naomi. Say's done. Naomi's eyes didn't soften. She's done with the settlement claim, she said. That's a win. I nodded, letting it sink in. Then Naomi's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen once and the muscles around her mouth tightened. What? He asked. Naomi turned the phone toward me. An email short, corporate, gold. Subject, distribution hold. Wrongful death proceeds. The message was polite, but the meaning was blunt. Due to a pending adverse claim, we are placing a temporary hold on distribution until we receive written court direction. My stomach dropped, but the judge just dismissed her claim, I said. Naomi nodded, already moving. Which is why, she said, tapping the email. We're not celebrating in the hallway. She looked at me, steady, no panic. But urgent. She tried to freeze it anyway. Naomi said. This is her real talent. If she can't win, she'll stall and squeeze. He swallowed. So, what do we do? Naomi turned on her heel. We get the signed order, she said. Today. Then she glanced down the corridor where Brianna had gone and added quieter. And we figure out exactly who she contacted to trigger this hold because that's going to matter at the next hearing. My phone buzzed at the same time. One new text from Brianna. Joy, you get your money when I get mine. Naomi looked at it once. Sabe that, she said. That's not grief talking. That's leverage. And in that moment, I understood something sick and simple. The lawsuit wasn't just about money. It was about control. And Brianna wasn't done trying to take it. That Naomi didn't let me spiral over that distribution hold email. She did what she always does. She turned anxiety into a checklist. Who sent this? She asked. He looked again. It wasn't the court. It wasn't the judge. It was the settlement administrator. The office that actually releases the money once the paperwork is clean. Naomi tapped the screen with her finger. Okay. She said, so, Brianna didn't just sue, she contacted the money. That sentence made my skin go cold because it was true. People like Brianna don't only argue in court. They call, email, pressure, and try to make the grown-ups in the room nervous enough to freeze everything. Naomi picked up her phone and called a number she already had saved. Harper and Lane, a receptionist, answered. Naomi didn't waste time. This is Renee. Sorry. Naomi Keller. I am counsel for Claire Sutton. I need whoever is handling the wrongful death disbursement. A pause clicking. Then a new voice. Mali, older, polite, exhausted. This is Victor Shaw, he said. I'm the attorney holding the settlement proceeds. Naomi put him on speaker so I could hear. MRSA, she said, we received a distribution hold notice due to an adverse claim. The court dismissed Miss Hale's claim to proceeds today. We need to release the hold. Victor Shaw was quiet, but real. I can't release without a signed order, he said. We got a call in a letter from the plaintiff claiming she was entitled. When there's an adverse claim, we freeze until the court direction is in writing. He clenched my jaw. Says not entitled. Victor didn't argue. It sounded like a man who'd seen 100 families tear themselves apart over a check. You understand, he said. But my job is to not release funds when someone is threatening litigation against the holder. Naomi's voice stayed calm, but it sharpened on one word. Letter. Yes, Victor said. She emailed and followed up with a formal letter. She used words like beneficiary and next of kin. She demanded that we stop distribution. My stomach turned. Naomi asked. Can you forward it to me? I can, Victor said through secure link. Do it, Naomi said. Now she ended the call and looked at me. It is a problem, she said plain. The judge dismissed her claim out loud, but the money office needs ink, stamped, signed, something they can keep in their file. I nodded. So, we go back. We go now, Naomi said. As we were back at the courthouse within the hour, Naomi filed a proposed order reflecting dismissal of the settlement claim. Clean language, no drama. Then, she walked it to the clerk and asked for it to be routed immediately to Chambers. The clerk, different one this time, looked at the hearing date and raised an eyebrow. People don't usually move this fast, she said. Naomi didn't smile. They do when someone's trying to freeze a wrongful death settlement out of spite. That got the clerk moving. We waited on the hard bench again under fluorescent lights that made everyone look tired and slightly haunted. Naomi sat like she was waiting for a bus. He sat like I was waiting for my life to stop wobbling. Her phone buzzed. Secure link from Victor. Naomi opened it, read for about 6 seconds, then turned her screen toward me. It was Brianna's letter. Type formal, confident. She wrote as if she had the law on her side, as if Ethan's death had created a pile of money and she was the only one responsible enough to manage it. Then I saw the sentence that made my stomach drop. I am Ethan Sutton. Surviving sister and rightful beneficiary of any proceeds. Naomi didn't need to comment. She just let it sit there ugly and bold. That, she said quietly, is why the hold happened. He swallowed. She leave. She overstated on purpose, Naomi replied. Because she knows if she can't win on merit, she can win by delay. The court assistant came out and called Naomi's name. Not into a courtroom, into a small back office. A minute later, Naomi returned with a single sheet of paper. Signed, dated, stamped, and order. Plaintiff's claim to wrongful death proceeds dismissed. Distribution authorized, consistent with prior approval order. My shoulders dropped so hard it almost hurt. Naomi didn't let me celebrate. We're not done, she said, already walking. Now we hand this to the money. Back in the car, she emailed Victor the signed order, the certified settlement approval page, and the judge's directive. Subject line, court order, release hold today. Victor responded faster than I expected. Received, he wrote, we will lift the hold and proceed. Pending confirmation, there are no liens outstanding. Liens. He flinched at the word like it was a trap, but Naomi kept it simple. Liens are normal, she said. Hospitals, insurers, sometimes agencies, it's not Brianna, it's housekeeping. Then her phone buzzed again. A new message from Victor. Counsel, please be aware. Ms. Hale also called our office twice today and left a voicemail stating she will expose fraud if we release funds to your client. He stared at Naomi. She threatened them, I said. Naomi's face stayed calm, but her eyes sharpened. Good, she said. Good, I repeated, because that word apparently follows Naomi around like a stray cat. Good, she said again. Because now we can prove intent, not grief, not confusion. Intent. She opened my text thread with Brianna and scrolled to the message she'd sent. Joy, you get your money when I get mine. Naomi nodded once. This isn't I am hurting, she said. This is I'm blocking you until you pay. She forwarded it to herself, then looked at me. 2 weeks from now, she said, she's supposed to show up with an accounting for donations and any reimbursement claim. He swallowed. She won't pay. Oh, she'll show up. Naomi said she just won't have what the judge asked for. Then she did something I didn't expect. She called the church office. A woman answered. Soft voice, older, familiar, the kind of person who signs sympathy cards for everyone. This is Dolores Grant, she said. Church administrator. Naomi introduced herself, then asked one clean question. Ms. Grant, who handled the memorial donations after Ethan's service. Dolores hesitated. Then she sighed like she'd been holding this in. Brianna insisted, she said. She said she'd take care of it. Naomi's tone stayed gentle but direct. Did any donations go into a personal account? She asked. Anoter pause. Then Dolores said it's quieter. He can't say for sure, but she asked people to use her payment app for speed. My stomach flipped. Naomi didn't gasp. She didn't act shocked. She just said, MR. We will subpoena records if needed, but if you have any emails, sign-in sheets, flyers, anything showing where people were instructed to send donations, please preserve them. Dolores swallowed audibly. I have the flyer, she said. And I have screenshots. People complained because they never got receipts. Naomi's eyes met mine. There it was. The second track. The part Brianna didn't want under a judge's light. Naomi ended the call and leaned back, finally letting herself exhale. Clyde, she said, your stepsister didn't pay funeral costs out of generosity. She used the funeral to collect money and then tried to use the settlement to grab more. He stared at her. And now? He asked. Naomi's voice stayed calm, but it had steel under it. Now, she said. The hearing isn't going to be about family. It's going to be about numbers. She held up her phone with Brianna's threat text and Victor's note about the voicemail. And when people try to control a wrongful death settlement with threats, she added. Judges stopped being patient. My phone buzzed. One new voicemail from an unknown number. He put it on speaker. Brianna's voice filled the car tight and angry. Tell your lawyer to stop. If my money doesn't come out of that settlement, I'm going to make sure yours doesn't either. Naomi didn't even blink. She just looked at me and said, Perfect. Then she hit save and labeled it with the date and added it to our file like she was sealing a jar. Because, she said quietly, she just handed us the part she can't talk her way out of 2 weeks later. I walked back into the same courthouse with a different kind of fear. Not the unknown fear, the now we're going to see what she really did fear. Brianne was already there, sitting upright with a thick folder like she was about to present a science project. She gave me that same controlled look like she'd practiced being innocent in the mirror. Naomi didn't look at her. She looked at the judge's bench, then at her own file, calm and ready. When the case was called, the judge got straight to it. Miss Hall, he said, last time you tried to seize wrongful death proceeds you're not entitled to. That claim is dismissed. Today is limited to one thing, reimbursement and accounting. Brianne nodded fast. Yes, Your Honor. Do you have an accounting? The judge asked. Brianne opened her folder and started sliding papers like she was dealing cards. I have receipts, she said. I paid funeral expenses. I have proof. Naomi stood. Your Honor, she said. We're not disputing that expenses exist. We're disputing her story about whose money covered them. Brianne's face tightened. What does that even mean? Naomi didn't answer her. She handed a packet to the clerk. We subpoenaed records from the payment platform used for the memorial donations, Naomi said. And we subpoenaed the funeral home's itemized ledger showing how each charge was paid. The judge's eyes lifted. Payment platform. Brianne's voice jumped in too quickly. That's unnecessary. Oh, people just donated. He used it for costs. The judge leaned forward. Ms. Hall, he said. You told this court you paid out of pocket, did you? Brianne hesitated, then switched wording like she thought nobody would notice. He covered it, she said. He handled it. Same thing. Naomi's tone stayed polite. It's not the same thing, she said. Brianne snapped. Oh my God. The judge didn't react to her attitude. He reacted to documents. Let's see it, he said. Naomi pointed to a single page in the subpoena response. Simple printout, no fancy jargon. This is the memorial flyer, Naomi said, showing Ms. Hale's payment handle. This is the platform record of deposits received under that handle over these days. The judge looked down and read silently. Brianne's foot started bouncing. She tried to stop it and couldn't. Hey, Naomi continued careful and slow. Total deposits $28,640. And she said, notes from donors say Ethan Funeral Memorial. Brianne threw up her hands. Yes, because people gave money for the funeral. That's what I'm saying. Naomi nodded like, great. Thanks for agreeing. And here Naomi said is what happened next. She slid one more page forward. Same platform statement, just a different section highlighted. The judge read it. His eyes paused. Then he read one line aloud. Traías paper. Transfer out. $23,000 to be Hale personal bank account next day. The room went quiet in a way that wasn't dramatic. More like everyone's brain did the same math at the same time. Brianne's face flushed. That's she started. Yeah, that's because I needed to pay vendors. The judge looked up. Do you have vendor receipts for that amount? He asked. Brianne shuffled papers. I have some. Naomi didn't pounce. She just slid the funeral home ledger forward. Your Honor, the funeral home ledger lists payments. Naomi said it shows the deposits received, the amounts applied, and importantly, how the Brianne payment was processed. The judge scanned, then tapped the page with his pen. He read another line out loud. Payment applied via memorial donations. Brianne's mouth opened slightly, then closed. The judge set the paper down. Miss Hall, he said, did you tell this court you personally paid? Brianne swallowed. I paid in the sense that I know, the judge said, cutting it clean. Amy, did you pay with your own funds? Brianne's eyes darted to me for half a second, like I could save her by blinking wrong. He handled it, she said again, weaker. The judge's expression stayed controlled, but his patience was gone. Here is what I see, he said. You collected donations. You moved a large portion into your personal account. Then you filed in court claiming you were owed money and tried to block distribution of the settlement. Brianna's voice went sharp. Sis twisting it. Naomi's voice stayed calm. Nobody has to twist a platform statement, she said. It's a record. The judge looked at Naomi. Did you provide this to the settlement holder? A asked. Naomi nodded. We provided the dismissal order to lift the hold. Yes. The holder also reported. Ms. Arhale left voicemails threatening to expose fraud if funds were released. Brianna snapped. He was warning them. The judge stared at her for a long beat. You were pressuring them. He said there's a difference. Then he did something that made Brianna's confidence crack for real. Ms. Hall, he said, I am ordering you to produce within 48 hours complete records of any memorial donations you received, any transfers you made, and any payments to vendors, full accounting, bank statements. Brianna's voice jumped. 48 hours. That's impossible. The judge didn't move. It's very possible, he said. Because you had no problem producing a lawsuit on short notice. Brianna started talking fast, trying to flood the room. This is harassment. She's trying to make me look bad. The judge raised his hand. Stop, he said. One more thing. A looked down at the docket, then back up. I am also awarding the defendant reasonable attorney fees for having to respond to an improper seizure attempt tied to a dismissed claim, he said. Brianna went still. Fees, she croaked. Yes, the judge replied, already writing. And if the accounting shows misuse of donations, the court will refer that for further review. Brianna's folder slipped a little in her hands. Not a huge slip, just enough to show she was losing her grip. As we stood to leave, she turned her head toward me, voice low and bitter. You're doing this to me after everything I did for him. Naomi stepped between us again. Not loud, just firm. You'll speak through the court now, Naomi said. In the hallway, my phone buzzed. An email from Victor Shaw. A short subject line. Disbursement. Schedule confirmed. Pending court fee order. Naomi read it and nodded once. Good, she said. The money is moving. Then she looked at me and in 48 hours she added, either she turns over real records or she explains to a judge why she can't. He swallowed. And if she can't, Naomi's eyes stayed calm. Then she said, we don't just win the argument. We get consequences. 48 hours sounds like a lot until it's your deadline. By the second morning, Naomi texted me one sentence. She responded, and it's not good for her. We were back at the courthouse that afternoon, not in the big courtroom this time. Same judge, smaller hearing, quieter room, the kind of setting where people stop performing because there's nowhere to hide. Brianna walked in late, then clutching her folder like it could protect her. She didn't look dry anymore. She looked irritated. And corner. The judge didn't do small talk. Hale, he said. I ordered a full accounting. You had 48 hours. Did you comply? Brianna stood up too fast. I brought what I could. Naomi didn't interrupt. She just waited. The judge held out his hand. Give it to the clerk. Brianna handed over a stack, receipts, a few screenshots, a couple of bank pages that looked selective. The judge flipped through, then stopped at one page and frowned. This is not a full statement, he said. This is a cropped screenshot. Brianna's face tightened. It shows the payments. It shows what you want it to show, the judge replied flat. Naomi stood. Your Honor, she said. Jink. We subpoenaed her platform deposit history and the linked bank account statements for the date range. We also have the settlement holder's record of her threats. She handed up a packet clean, organized, boring in the way that scares liars. The judge read silently for a moment. Then he looked at Brianna. Ms. Hall, he said. You told this court you paid out of pocket. Brianna tried to speak. The judge continued. The platform record shows memorial donations totaling $28,640. The bank record shows 23,000 transferred into your personal account the next day. A tapped the page. Your accounting does not explain where that money went. Brianna's voice went sharp. He used it for expenses. The judge didn't argue. A asked for a number. Then show me the matching vendor payments. And he said, show me a trail. Brianna started flipping through her folder like she could shuffle the truth into existence. Some vendors were cash, she said. Naomi's head tilted just slightly. Not sarcastic. Just really. The judge stared at Brianna for a long beat. Cash, he repeated. For thousands of dollars. Brianna's cheeks flushed. It was an emergency. The judge put the papers down gently like he didn't want to tear them. Here is what I'm finding, he said. Calm and very final. You are not entitled to the wrongful death settlement proceeds. That claim was dismissed. You attempted to block distribution by making threats to the holder, and your reimbursement claim is not supported because the records show donations, community money, were used. Brianna's mouth opened. Deed, so I get nothing. You get what you can prove, the judge said. And you proved you collected donations. Brianna snapped. That's not fair. The judge didn't raise his voice. Fairness is not a feeling. He said, it's documentation. Then he looked down and started writing. The room went so quiet I could hear the clerk's keyboard. When he looked up, his voice was steady. Ms. Cal, your reimbursement request is denied. It, you will repay the remaining memorial donations you transferred into your personal account, less any verified funeral payments already applied into the estate account managed by Mr. Sutton. Brianna went still. Ripa, she whispered. Yes, the judge said. Ripa. Naomi slid one page forward without fanfare. Your Honor, she said. Oemi, we calculated the verified payments already applied to the funeral home ledger and the unexplained remainder. The judge glanced, nodded once, and wrote again. He spoke while he wrote, like he'd already made peace with how ugly this was. Restitution amount is set at 18,400, he said. Due within 14 days. Brianna's face twisted. You don't have that, she blurted. The judge didn't soften. Then you will explain to your bank why your account is being garnished, he said. This is a civil order. It will be enforced. Brianna's hands started shaking. The judge turned to Naomi. Attorney's fees, he said. Naomi handed up her fee declaration. Time entries, filing costs, hearing time. The judge read it and nodded once. Fees awarded, he said. 6,250 paid by the plaintiff. Brianna made a sound like she'd been punched. The judge wasn't done. And because Ms. Hale attempted to seize household goods tied to a claim she had no legal right to pursue, he added, I am also imposing sanctions for bad faith filing. I wrote one more number. 15,000. Brianna's eyes went wet. Finally. Not grief, not remorse. Just the moment the consequences became real. Then the judge looked at her in a way that wasn't angry, just tired. One more order. It said you will not contact the settlement holder again. Any communication about distribution goes through counsel. If you attempt to interfere, this court will consider further sanctions. That was the door closing. No more side calls. No more freezing money by intimidation. It signed to everything right there. Canned on the bench. Scratch of pen, stamp, clerk, taking copies. Naomi leaned toward me and whispered, that's the paper that changes her behavior. Brianna stood there for a second like she couldn't decide whether to plead, argue, or run. She chose rage. This is because she hates me, she snapped, pointing at me like I was on trial. The judge didn't even look at me. No, he said. This is because you filed claims you weren't entitled to, handled other people's donations without records, and tried to control a wrongful death settlement with threats. Brianna swallowed hard. And for the first time in this entire mess, she didn't have a clean line to say back. 3 days later, Victor Shaw emailed Naomi and me a single sentence that felt like oxygen. All released, disbursement scheduled. The deposit hit the following morning. He stared at my bank screen until the number stopped looking like a hallucination. Not because it was money, because it was the system finally doing what it was supposed to do. After weeks of my stepsister trying to jam her fingers into it. That afternoon, Naomi forwarded me another email. Subject line payment plan request be hail Brianna asking to set up a payment arrangement for the restitution and fees because the court order wasn't a threat anymore. It was a deadline with teeth. I didn't respond to her. I didn't need to. Everything was in writing now. The dismissal order, the restitution order, the fee award, the sanctions, the no-contact directive to the settlement holder. And the part people always ask at the end, the part that never gets to stay vague anymore. What happened to Brianna? She lost the wrongful death claim completely. She got ordered to pay back what she pulled from memorial donations. She got hit with fees and sanctions for trying to seize property she wasn't entitled to. And the court shut down her ability to interfere with the money again. No speeches, just consequences. That night, I sat in my car outside my dad's house with a copy of the signed orders in my lap. He didn't feel victorious. He felt done because the money wasn't the point. The point was that Ethan's death didn't get to become her side hustle, and now it couldn't.